What is up, YouTube? I'm Rob from RP Model Railroads. It's been a long time since I've given you guys a layout update video all about my Ephrata Valley Railroad HO scale layout. So now's the time. There have been a lot of changes, small and large, and I really hope you guys enjoy. For those of you who have been watching my videos for a while, you definitely know that this church has been on the layout for quite some time. This is the Tycho lighted church building that I've since called the Good Shepherd Church, that used to sit on this corner here. But because of building changes, I moved the church to this corner, replacing the Al's General Store Lifelike kit that used to sit in this location. And honestly, the church looks way better here, right behind the school building, right next to the coal mine. The church is not only more visually appealing here, but it just makes more sense in terms of the town planning. Not only that, but I also went ahead and added a nice gravel parking lot that I glued down with some scenic glue, put down an old pickup truck and an old car in front of the church in the parking lot, and also put in one of my hand-painted railroad signs for the EV right there leading into the crossing as the train sits on the siding. So yeah, the church has been moved to a new spot, and I think it looks way better than before. The biggest changes that have taken place on the layout have happened right here, on the face of Main Street in the fictional town of Ephrata on my layout. And here we have two brand new, awesome looking buildings on Main Street. Penzo Auto Repair and Gennardi's. So these two buildings are actually part of one kit, an old AHM Mini Kits building kit that Aaron tipped me off to. I ended up really liking the building designs, so he ended up building the buildings and doing all the fine paint work, and of course they turned out absolutely awesome. And here's a more up-close view of Penzo Auto Repair Shop, the #1 garage in the town of Ephrata to take your HO scale car. Penzo, which is short for Pennsylvania Southern Oil Company, is the fictional oil company on my model train layout. And they own not just this shop, but also the small town gas station next door, which has been one of my favorite buildings on the layout since Aaron made it, as well as the oil wells, tanker truck, and the Penzo oil refinery that's been painted into the backdrop in the right corner of the 4x8 section of my layout. There's so much I like about this building, from the white painted face on the front of the shop that matches the Penzo blue, white, and yellow scheme, and the gas station right next door, which stands out really well on an otherwise normal molded dark red brick building kit, as well as all the other fine details that Aaron added, such as tires and accessories, two old repainted Tootsie Toys, especially the one that's peeking out of the garage door, which looks nice, and the garage door itself, which is actually a plastic piece that Aaron used for the door opening that was way better looking than the door that was included with the kit that was basically like a two-piece folding door piece. The garage door element that he used looks a whole lot better on Penzo Auto Repair. It looks good from the front and the back. Penzo Auto Repair Shop is here to stay. And we have the new grocery store on the layout, Gennardi's Grocery Store, which is actually named after the real Gennardi's grocery store chain that once existed here on the East Coast and was a family-owned business that actually got its start right in Norristown. And I thought to myself, how cool would it be to have the grocery store of my train layout named after a family-owned business that started right here in Norristown, PA. Gennardi's Grocery Store looks really, really awesome. Aaron did a great job, of course. And it looks great paired up with Penzo Auto Repair right here on Main Street. And there's a super cool new dealership in town. Say hello to J.A. Loppy's Used Car Sales. Yeah, that name is definitely a tongue-in-cheek joke. But this building is not. This was actually somewhat of a collab project between Aaron and myself. This is nothing more than a Tycho Honest Sam's car dealership building. I got it for $5 and it was in pretty poor condition, but it was the perfect candidate to be completely custom done for my layout. So I measured, and Aaron actually made signs to the measurements to go on this building, and it turned out absolutely awesome. So yeah, J.A. Loppy's, or Jalopies, Used Car Sales, however you want to say it. And there's another tongue-in-cheek joke in SC Ratchet Towing, or Scratch It Towing, on the side of the car dealership. Yeah, that's another tongue-in-cheek joke as well. But yeah, the fine paint work that Aaron did on the signs is absolutely awesome. The dealership, I actually painted myself. I painted the black parking lot, and I also painted the gray on the curbs and sidewalk and added the figures all around the building and such. And Aaron also painted and made this extension to the base for J.A. Loppy's that I went ahead and repainted once I got it to match perfectly with the parking lot, and needless to say, it does. It's a perfect fit and it extends nicely. And here's the opposite side of J.A. Loppy's, facing Roosevelt Street. You can see the salesman there leaning his elbow back on the trunk lid of that car, trying to sell it to that couple that needs a car. And there's also a paperboy on his route with his little sister next to him. And last but not least, there's one last sign on the building. Next time, try a bus. Now, let's talk about the donut shop on the layout. So this Walther's Hole-in-One Donut Shop is one of the few buildings that used to exist on my very first HO scale 4x4 Ephrata Valley Railroad layout, and it made it over to this layout. Now, the donut was completely redone by Aaron a couple of years back, and he knocked it out of the park. But the building itself was kind of bland. It was never painted or given any special details after I built it years ago. That is, until recently when I decided to go ahead and repaint this building and give it some new character. So check this out. All of the paintwork that you see here, I actually did myself with paintbrushes and more, and this was somewhat challenging for me considering that I haven't painted that many buildings. But nonetheless, the donut shop turned out awesome, and I decided to call it Susie Joe Donuts. Susie Joe Donuts is actually a real family-owned business right outside of Norristown that makes some of the best donuts in this area. Just ask anyone around here, they're the best. So I decided to go ahead and pay tribute to them by naming the donut shop on my layout Susie Joe Donuts. There's a worker inside Susie Joe getting ready for the morning. We've got a blue motorcycle parked out front. And we can't forget about the A-Team that showed up in town, and their number one stop is Susie Joe Donuts. I wonder where the bad guys are that they're after. But they better watch out, because Decker is right on their heels. The next biggest change that took place was actually revamping the coal mine scene. So I haven't really filmed that much back here because I always felt like there was something missing from this area. And once I kind of figured out what I wanted to change, I just kind of rolled with my ideas, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. First thing I did was paint and heavily weather the coal mine building here, which this coal mine is actually a Model Power Blue Coal Depot kit that I built years ago, and it too was on my very first HO 4x4 layout and made it onto this layout. So I just went ahead and added a bunch more details, not to mention used a bunch of black paint to go ahead and make this a very sooty, grimy mine scene, which is exactly how I wanted it to look. Not to mention the roof. I gave it the illusion of an old rusted steel roof with some Sharpies and paint work, which took me a little bit of time, but I'm happy with how it turned out. And I think it looks way better than it did before, and it adds some character to this coal mine scene back here, along with, of course, the faller kit that I built years ago, the Ephrata Coal Company headgear mine building, which just still looks fantastic. Also paired with the Vale mining building that Aaron painted into the backdrop. From there, the rest of the changes all happened to landscaping. And all my landscaping work I glued down with scenic glue, because once I was happy with the results, I wanted it to stay that way permanently. So I added some dark green foliage right there to look like grass in between the two tracks. And I also went ahead and moved that block there as actually a piece of real anthracite coal, so I moved that up to a place where it would look like a giant piece of coal on display, and I thought it looked great there. The dump truck back there is an old Matchbox Euclid dump truck, which is the perfect addition to this old mine scene. Of course, we still have the stone and dirt grade crossing, which I just went ahead and glued down for good with scenic glue. Dump trucks, including the Magnuson models, Ephrata coal mine truck that Aaron did a while ago. It's in a more prominent spot now. Some Hot Wheels Peterbilts back there. And then over here in front of the coal mine, I used to have an old bulldozer, and the scene wasn't nearly as cool as it is now. I went ahead and used some black dirt, like scenery, on the ground and glued it down, and then made ruts, painted those ruts a reddish-brown color to look like mud, obviously. And then I found the perfect vehicle to kind of add character to this coal mine scene, a mini Tonka Mighty Crane truck, which is just such a great addition to this scene. It looks so great, not to mention it fits right in with the wheel rut idea that I came up with, and I just think it adds some character to this scene. And then last but not least, I went ahead and painted this old signal tower, which I believe is an old Revell building. I liked the placement, but never liked the colors, so I went ahead and gave it a character all of its own, with some dark red paint, white windows, black roof, and I even painted the brown parts brown again so they would look a lot better. And paired with the maintenance of way truck, the signal tower looks way better now than it did before. So yeah, there were a whole lot of changes back here that I feel really brought some life into this area of the layout that had some blank spots, if you will, that I always wanted to try to fill in with some new scenery. And I'm really happy with how it turned out. Well, I certainly hope you all enjoyed the new additions, just as much as I enjoyed sharing them with you. And now for the rest of the video, I've compiled some of my photos of scenes around the layout to kind of give you a tour of my Ephrata Valley Railroad layout.